Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good afternoon, everyone. Ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, and very warm welcome to Sesame Riyadh office. I'm Dr. chaya8march, Chairperson and Head of Continuing Professional Development Activities at Saudi Society for Medical Education, Riyadh office. I'm very much pleased that we are going to explore a very important topic in medical education today, which is very much in these days, which is very important for faculty members and teaching staff to understand, because now we are adopting to different kind of pedagogical approach in medical education. And all of these efforts are to introduce student-centered approach in medical education and to produce physicians who are expert as a lifelong learner. And today's topic is about flipped classroom in medical education, and especially we shall focus on methodology. And I'm very much proud and delighted to introduce you Prof. Chaya8march. Prof. Chaya8march, very warm welcome to Riyadh office, Saudi Arabia. Prof. Chaya8march is PhD from University of Glasgow, Scotland. Dr. Goplan's teaching career started at Maribel University in St. Louis. She served as professor at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. She has served as a tenured track faculty member at St. Louis Community College and St. Louis College of Pharmacy. She has been teaching in area of anatomy, physiology, and pathophysiology to both graduates as well as undergrad levels for health professional programs. Dr. Goplanch has been practicing evidence-based teaching using team-based learning, case-based learning, and most recently, flipped classroom methods. She has received many teaching awards, including Guyton Educator of the Year Award for American Physiological Society and Excellence in Undergrad Education Award at her university. She has also received several grants and has published numerous manuscripts and contributed to several textbook chapters and questions banked at different institutions. She is author of Biology of Cardiovascular and Metabolic Disease and has conducted frequent workshops to train faculty members, and she is a trainer for the trainers. Very warm welcome, Prof. Goplanch, and I can see that there are quite good number of participants from different regions. Excited to hear you. So over to you, Prof. Goplanch.
Thank you very much for this amazing introduction. Good evening, everyone. I am situated in this beautiful city, St. Louis, which is not too far from my university. The arch that you see is the gateway to the west. That is a symbol. Okay, we are in the center of the country, and from our city onwards to the west is California, Seattle, Colorado, and those other states, and many more. First of all, let's talk about how many of you have gone through all the assignments that you were asked to complete.
That's very good question. So participants, either they can reply in chat box, or you can just unmute and can share your views. I hope that you get a chance to have a look on those video link, which I shared you through email.
If you have gone through them, you will do really well in the quiz questions today, which you may not have known about. I'm just joking, but it is where I want to kind of give you an experience of flipped teaching. What we do in flipped classroom is give students all of the lecture content ahead of time. And then when we meet in the group session, that's when the activities begin. So I'm going to take you through the real experience as much as I can. I know you probably didn't have time to go through all of the assignments that I shared, but it's okay. You're all busy people, and we'll pretend that you did all the assignments and go from there. Well, what you see here is the famous Dr. C.V. Raman, a Nobel Prize winner in physics in 1930. Take a look at the blackboard here and see how much work he has shared with the students in the classroom. So this is didactic lecture. If you or I were in his class, we would be overloaded with very complex details, overwhelmed with the details, and leave the room probably being concerned how you would be able to remember all of those details, correct? So now this is a flipped classroom. It has two parts in it. First part is where the lecture content is accessed by the student in his or her own space. The professor has given everything a student needs, and the student is going through this at his or her own speed. And there is no such feeling as overwhelmed with the content, because you can pace it. You can take it slowly or at a double speed, depending upon the content and the amount of information that is given by the instructor. All right, so that's the first phase. The student is given videos or readings or slides and practice questions, so on, and the student is utilizing those resources. Second piece is where you're talking about the group session. This could be very well in the classroom now after COVID or before COVID. During COVID, we all met remotely online, right? So that is where it may not have been so easy to be in the classroom. So I'm going to talk about the second component here. This is where you have had the chance to look at the content. You're now using that knowledge to learn more about the same concepts, or just repeat or rehearse the content. Apply the knowledge to solve real problems. Since it's medical education, we can talk about real examples like I would say endocrine physiology. Let's say are talking about thyroid gland and its functions. You have given this beautiful lecture on the basic anatomy and physiology, the hormonal regulation, all of that as lecture videos. In class, you have a scenario where you say a patient is having these symptoms, weight gain and feeling cold, and now what could be going on here? You assess the situation and conclude in terms of the knowledge whether there is too much or too little of this hormone, and whether it is the thyroid gland or the pituitary gland or the hypothalamus that is causing this situation. So that kind of application, analysis, and then give them an opportunity to summarize everything, reconstruct the hormonal pattern, where it is secreted, how it's regulated, all those things. That is synthesis. That happens in a guided group space. Instructor has the problems that are designed to encourage students thinking. the instructor has also planned a group activity that would enhance their learning, where the peers help one another, peers teach one another. So this is the second component, that is the in-class activity, and that would solidify all of their understanding of the content. Why flipped classroom? This is where we want to see all of the benefits of this particular method of teaching. It is the self-paced learning. As I showed you before, Dr. C.V. Raman's class is where it is content overload, versus here we can break down the content to digest at our own speed. All right, prevents cognitive overload. Differentiated learning. What is this? This is where you give the students the basic details, factual details. Where is thyroid situated? Which hormones does it make? How does it make these hormones? Which other structures are involved in the regulation of secretion of these hormones? All of those things are basic details that are given to students. And during this group session, in class session, you would be applying this knowledge. So this is what we call as differentiated learning: factual details, comprehension, and then application, analysis, and synthesis. They occur at different stages. First, the basic details, little later, more advanced, deeper type of learning, okay? And this is a student-centered learning methodology. Why do we say that it is student-centered? When you go to the classroom, you don't start lecturing. You say, what part of the lecture was not clear to you? And the students have to have gone through the lecture to be able to say, can you explain the process of the synthesis of thyroid hormone, T3, T4? So that's where you probably have to give a mini lecture. That's okay. Mini lecture is centered around the topic that the students didn't understand. You don't have to repeat everything that you have already given, but only selected topics. All right. So that is where the student drives the activities within the classroom. All right. So then practicing lecture content that was already given in the form of mini lectures, question answer session, application of knowledge, analysis, solving problems, and synthesis of information. Collaborative learning is another big plus. Because you do not lecture during class time, you have the entire class time to engage students. So this is where you may want to design group activities where the students are given a set of instructions as to who has to do what and what their goals are and how many problems they have to finish, what case they have to finish, all of that. And this is where a well-prepared student may be able to take the lead and help the not so well-prepared student. So that's where I call it as peer teaching. Then active participation of student. Here, students are not passively taking notes. There is not much note-taking going on. Instead, everybody has to be engaged in asking questions or answering questions within the group, participating in the group activity, okay? And another thing that it offers, flipped teaching offers, is convenience. One can access the content at any time from anywhere in the world. All right. If you have access to your course management system where the content will be available, you can access it at any time. You could be a morning person, evening person, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You also can repeat the videos many times because you may need more time to understand the synthesis of thyroid hormones. So you may want to go back 2-3 times using the same lecture video and understand it better, right? And then you may have practice questions to practice at your own convenient time. So that's the type of convenience we're talking about here. Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy is the organization of learning. Okay, Bloom, designed this principle where it's organized in the pyramid form. All right, the base of the pyramid is where you would have the basic information such as factual details, simple things that you can remember. One gland, two lobes, dark color because of rich blood. These are all factual details. T3, T4, calcitonin. These are factual details that are given to them already, and they would be able to learn on their own. And then understanding, that is comprehension level. So now, what does T3 do? What does T4 do? What is the relationship here between T3 and its function? And that type of connection between the factual details is what we're doing here in the second level, that is the light blue tier. And then applying this knowledge, when you have given this problem, this gland is not making T3 and T4. What happens now is where you have to apply this knowledge. T3 does this. If it's not there, now this person will have these conditions. So that is application. And you may have a chart there saying, a hypothyroid patient having undergone this surgery, blah, blah, blah. So now you have to analyze the situation and come up with a solution. Evaluating is basically, again, interpreting the situation and coming up with an answer to that. Creating is synthesis. You will be able to summarize the whole endocrine physiology of the thyroid gland by the time you finish this lecture, this whole cycle of pre-class and in-class activities. Okay, so Bloom's taxonomy is employed 100% in flipped teaching. Think about it in a didactic lecture approach. You don't give them the choice of application, synthesis, and evaluating and whatnot. You don't have time. You have time to lecture. You may ask one or two questions. Students may or may not answer. Simply because they may not be comfortable answering questions that you ask because they don't want to look bad in front of other students, peer pressure. Or they may ask you one or two questions, but you may not have time for more questions because you have to cover the content, correct? So that is where these activities are all cut short, is what I want to emphasize. So now we are talking about why not didactic lecture. Some of it I mentioned already, less engaging, obviously. Students could be multitasking. Everyone has a phone or a laptop in their hands, and they may be doing other things besides listening to lecture, or maybe listening to lecture, taking good notes, but they may be hesitant to ask questions when they don't understand. For the same reasons I mentioned earlier, they may miss the key point while rushing to take notes. And then little interaction with peers, little interaction with the professor because of the limited amount of time there is in a lecture classroom. All right, so now we want to look at the specific details of the flipped teaching model. As I mentioned before, there are two key components. One is the pre-class, one is the in-class component. Pre-class is where you have given the students the content, guided readings, lecture PowerPoint slides, lecture videos, study guide. You don't have to give everything, whatever is ideal for your particular topic that you want them to learn. All right, a physician who is asking his her students to come prepared to do a patient evaluation may have a set of details. You need to take blood pressure, you need to take a pulse, or you need to use the stethoscope, take their breathing, study their breathing pattern, whatever that is you want to do. That itself is a few details you would compile, and you may explain how they would do that and put it out for them to access and come prepared. Okay, so that is guided content you would assign. So introduction of content happens before you meet with the student. It is virtual. Asynchronous, meaning you're not with them. They're doing it independently at their own sweet time. And then in order to encourage this behavior, with medical students, you don't have to worry too much. They would have to do it because they have to go tomorrow and do the patient evaluation. So they have no choice but to go over this video that you have assigned. But with undergraduate students, there is some pushing needed. That's where you say, you need to show me that you have done the work. So you may assign a quiz or some type of evaluation assessment so that they are completing the expected assignment and then do the assessment so that they're not missing out on any of the points towards their grade. Then in class is a very busy time. You are there with the students and you are not lecturing. You have all the time the students can use. Correct? So this is where application of knowledge to learn, practice, master content. So this is in a synchronous setting, now in a live classroom, okay? Engaging students as best as you can. And then, during COVID, it was an online setting. Okay, what do you do there? First, you have to make sure that you talk about what you assign. You may ask them first, did you go through the lecture or content that I assigned? Then you say, okay, take this index card. Tell me what part you did not understand. Right? So then they may put that question there and give it to you. Or they may raise their hand and say, can you go over this topic again? We didn't understand this, etc. Okay, so you make a note of all the topics that they didn't understand fully, all right? And then you may start explaining things for some time. These are what I call as mini lectures, as needed. You're not volunteering to lecture again. If you go and lecture again, the entire content, that would not be flip teaching. That would be a waste of your time, waste of their time. Students do not like it if you lecture again because they have already done their work and it's a waste of their time. They are bored and you lose them. Okay, so now after this question answer session, review of the content, you probably have built an activity for students to show that they have understood the concepts. So this could be a group activity, a case study, a problem set, build a model, whatever that you have planned, you release that and then see how vibrant the class becomes. So now you are basically moving in the classroom, looking at how they're doing, and then help them as needed, answer their questions, just be around, just guide them in the right direction. That's your job, you're not lecturing. And then once they complete that assignment, go over those questions, go over that case so that they immediately know whether they understood this or they made a mistake in some parts or all of it, so that they know to go back and learn, relearn, and ask you questions and basically fix their mistakes quickly. Okay, instant feedback is also an extremely powerful habit. Okay, so with that, what I wanted to do was a little exercise. Now, let's see. Introduction of content, you understand that. What I did was to give you three videos. To go over. Okay, so this was your pre-class assignment. Okay, if I were to talk about flip teaching during class time today, all right, assuming that you have done the viewing of 3 videos, I would do this. I would say, when I'm in class with you, which is right now, okay, all of you are here and I am here. It is virtual, but that's okay. If I assume that you all went through the 3 videos, I would be saying, what questions do you have about the pre-class content that was assigned to you? Do you have any questions about the videos that you watched? You can speak now. So you say, I did not.
From participants, anyone want to share their views if they watch these videos? I sent them through link on your emails.
It looks like some did not see it.
Yes. So maybe the one who did not share email, then they didn't receive. Otherwise, mostly I sent.
Okay, so some of them didn't get it. So 3 people are saying they didn't get it. Okay, so probably you didn't know to even look for it, because this is not a common thing, right? In a webinar, who would expect homework? Right? And I'm the weird presenter here, making you do some work before coming. This is just to give you a little sample of flip teaching. Okay, so without having gone through the content, you wouldn't be asking me questions, right? So if you had gone through, imagine this, if you had gone through, what would you do? Is there anyone that saw the video? Just one person? So this is like an overwhelming majority here saying, no, we didn't receive it. No problem.
No worries.
Okay, so you can watch them later if you're interested, but now that we are going to go through, it may not be necessary either, okay? But now you're getting the idea. It was assigned, and if it was my students, I would be so sad that nobody watched my pre-class content. There is no way I can proceed in that situation. In my typical class, about 85 to 90% of the class would have done the work, would have seen the content. So out of this, out of this 85 to 90% of the students, they would have already known to ask me some questions. They raised their hand or put it in the index card that I have handed. This is my question, please go over it. Then I list the questions and then I start talking about it. It's what I call mini lecture, and they tell me that they have understood. So that is a normal practice for me. All right. So now after this, I want to make sure that they have understood the content. So now I'm going to do one individual assessment over the content. Okay. Individual assessment is usually at the very factual detail, not an application level, evaluation level type of thing. You don't want too many complicated questions, basic details. Which hormone is found in greater concentrations in the blood, T3 or T4 could be one, or what is calorigenesis, stuff like that would be basic details. Definition type of questions is what I would be talking about in asking questions about in the individual assessment. So this is an activity during class time. Okay, this activity, if you really want more time for group work, you can push it to an online situation. So you can say, okay, you have gone through the content, Now you complete this assessment before you come to class. So you can see how they did, and then you can assess where they need help. And then you can talk about that in class. So those are some alternate methods, okay? So now individual assessment, what I have done, this is just a few questions I prepared. Typically though, what I would do is I'll get off of this slideshow mode to show you. I don't use PowerPoint slides to ask questions. I'm going to share, I'm going to unshare this for a minute. Give me a second. I'm going to share. How is everybody doing? Am I just going fast or slow? Please let me know if I need to slow down or whatever. So I have a question here. I need to share this, right? So let me do that. Share screen, and then I'm going to share this, and then I'm going to say present. So this is in a typical class. This may be the way I would like to ask questions, okay? All right, so in here though, in here, I would ask a question. So this is students being able to see, and they can answer the questions, and we see the answers, and immediately we know how many students got it right, how many students didn't get it right, and then we can talk about the topic. See here, what is flipped teaching? Does it result in cognitive overload? Does it allow self-pacing? Is it limited to lecture? Does it allow students to learn on their own? Is it the other name for online teaching? So this kind of thing, and then I can go on and on to other questions, right? So this is my typical activity in my classroom. So now, because you may not be logged in and you may not have a texting option, I'm not going to use this approach. This is what we call as poll everywhere. There are many other applications similar to this. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to go back. Let me quickly glance through the chat here to see what you're saying. Using audience response system is the best way to ask and discuss. Yes, that's true. Polleverywhere.com. Yes, that's correct. Good. So this is a really nice one, and you can subscribe to it and do some on your own. Some of it you cannot, because you need a paid service. Okay, and you can use up to 40 students, I believe, for free, and then beyond that you need to have a paid subscription. So that's all up to you how you would like to handle in your institution. All right, okay. Yeah, Mentimeter is another good one where it allows participants to interact. So let me go back to my slides. I have a few sample questions for you, and you don't even have to answer. I'm just showing it as to how I do these things, right? So in a class, individual assessment may include, okay, what is flipped teaching? You already saw the question in my Poll Everywhere activity. Flipped teaching allows students to learn on their own. Is that the correct answer? What is the correct answer, anybody? Just feel brave and say it. You can use a letter. Which one is the correct answer? No, D is not. Allow students to learn on their own? Well, initially, yes, but later on, what? You are there to guide them. Okay, it's not by themselves. Okay, I see B, B and D, B, B. Many of you picked B, and those with B, yes, pat your backs. You got it right. Very good, very good. So now let's move on to another question. What is differentiated learning? All right, let's see what the answers are. Assign students difficult topics to learn on their own. Differentiate students in the classroom as smart and not so smart. Provide students a range of different avenues for understanding new information. Each student is given his or her own assignment. What would be the correct answer? Now I see some answers. This is so much fun. Well, I see different answers. Somebody said A, D, Okay, C and D, you could only pick one. Very funny, right? Well, C would be the best answer, don't you think? This is good. You're all still awake and doing this. I'm so happy. Good. Let's see. C would be the best answer. What do you think? Now you agree? Very good, very good. So you got the idea. You can do this in multiple ways. You can have a paper copy of the quiz, or one of these apps that would allow students to interact. These days, students want to be pushing buttons and playing with their computers. So this is a fancy way to do what you really want to get done. Okay, so individual formative assessment. Formative means, the points that you assign shouldn't be too many that would give them free grade, but you may want to control it tightly by giving a few points for each quiz. And it's an assessment you do on a regular basis just to see how they're doing on a regular basis. It's not like a unit exam. It's not like a major test. Got it? So what kind of activity can you think about is where you can say an online quiz or an in-class quiz like we did just now, a worksheet that you would share with the students even before a class that they would complete, and you would talk about it in class. All right, a completed worksheet that they could share with you to show that they were engaged. Or if you're creating lecture videos, you could insert questions that would stop them from moving forward in the video, but to forcefully answer the question before they can go to the next part of the video. A polling or e-clicker or poll everywhere that we did is another activity that I just demonstrated. Okay, so these are some options. You may have other creative ideas and let them be, if it works for you. There is no one size fits all here. So now that we know we have done the pre-class work, assuming you had gone through all the videos and you did very well in your individual assessment, now what? We still have a half of the class time left. What do we do? This is where you need to engage students again in a very much an engaging way. It's active, busy learning. That's what you really want to do. And this is where you have to be careful. You do not want to make it too easy that they complete in no time and walk away and say, oh, that was so easy, I'm done. So that's not going to be helpful for them or for you. And what if you wrote very difficult questions that they didn't even understand? Don't go there either. Then you lose students. They say, okay, this teacher is difficult. This method stinks. I don't want this. I don't want to be doing any of this. I want plain lecture is what they say. So what I want you to think about is the content that you work with students has to be only the content that you assign. If you gave them thyroid physiology, don't talk about diabetes here. That they didn't learn about insulin, diabetes. Why are you talking about that? So that is totally wrong. And then, don't simply add more information just because you gave the lecture. Now it's an opportunity to cover more content. That's not right either, but it has to be thyroid physiology related. Okay, again, remember I mentioned a patient with hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, or pituitary condition, or a hypothalamus condition, whatever it is that you have picked, let them wander around that problem, solve it as a group. That is ideal, but again, you can assign it individually also if you prefer. So that's what I recommend you do. Engage them at their appropriate level. So that is suitable only on the content that you have covered. Okay, no new content. That would be too much. Okay, so in class assessments, what kind of assessments can we use? Well, now we are talking about individual or group activities. Retrieval exercise. Retrieval is where you recall the information. Okay, you may simply give a checkbox or a matching question where you say T3 is, a monoiodotyrosine, diiodotyrosine, triiodotyrosine, whatever that you want them to match with. So that is where you are basically testing the knowledge again, but in a group setting or an individual setting. A retrieval exercise. Clicker question is can be a retrieval exercise. Problem set with X number of problems that is ideal for the class time you have. And please have a few extra problems just in case they finish early. And if they're running late, they're taking too much time, you can say stop at this many because we don't have time. We can do the rest tomorrow, etc. Team-based learning. This is another session for us to talk about another time. This is a very organized group study pattern that I use it all the time, and my students like it. So it's really a good situation for students. A case study is always a good one. A team-based learning can incorporate cases too. Think, pair, share also is powerful, and it's more of an informal setting. What you're asking students to do is, talk to the student next to you, work on this problem, and share the answer with the rest of the class. So that is think, pair, share. This is where you didn't form the groups. You just ask them to find another person around them and answer the question. So that's still a good one. Okay, so these are some examples. Again, you may have even more ideas. If so, please share and build to the list that I already have here, okay? So flipped teaching is not all rosy. There are good things about it. There are challenges that you have to consider. It takes some time, at least in the beginning, to prepare the content that works best. This is where upfront investment of time gives you a lot more dividend later on, okay? So this is where students have to get used to this new teaching method, and you have to get used to the teaching method and prepare. But one good news, you don't have to flip the entire course. You can do it in a methodical way. Do 1 or 2 sessions first and get used to the idea. Get your students used to the idea, and then gradually build the content and then make it fully flipped. So partial flip initially, full flip later is what I would advise as a beginner. Okay, if you try to be too adventurous, want to do everything right away, and if it doesn't work, you will be blaming me, and that's where things may not go as well, right? So I would encourage you to start slow. Okay, and buy-in from the students and buy-in from you, the faculty, and then a department, institution, they all have to be with you in this new teaching method, okay? So you have to believe in it, first of all. If you don't believe in it, there is no point in you doing it. Don't do it if you don't believe in it, okay? My suggestion. Your students, your students may not like it. I'll show you some data later on where students always like a lecture method, because that is what they're used to and that's what they think is better. But many research studies, including ours, has shown that students do better with flipped teaching. Although they say they like a lecture method, they do better with flipped teaching in terms of scores or grades, and later on application elsewhere, long-term learning, all of that has shown that active learning, flipped teaching is good for students. Okay, buy-in, although was a challenge before COVID, I would say that buy-in has become a little less problematic today. Why? Because COVID forced everybody to try technology, try new things. So now faculty are a little bit more flexible, students are a little bit more flexible, universities, departments, they're all like, okay, we need to be prepared in different ways. And so the resistance has kind of gone down, which is good, okay? And now this is your shift from being a professor who is at the podium dictating what the students should do. That's like a very powerful role, to just walking around the room, seeing what students are doing, helping them, guide them. That is what we call as a facilitator. You may not like that role. You don't get that powerful feeling when you're a facilitator. But believe me, once you get used to this, you never look back and say, I want to be that powerful lecturer ever again. Okay. And another important feature is many of you probably are hesitant to try new teaching method because you don't know where to begin. There is no proper training. So you may start on the wrong foot and end up not being able to do so well. So proper training is important. There are workshops organized by your universities, which may be essential for you to attend and participate, and then become familiar, take good notes, and then start doing it slowly, and then eventually expand fully. Okay, so those are some challenges that you have to deal with in this type of teaching. Myths about the flipped classroom. What are some myths? Myths meaning false assumptions, right? Students come prepared is a myth. Must flip the entire course is a myth. Must provide videos is a myth. Poor student evaluations is also another myth. These are all false beliefs about flipped classroom. Let me tell you, 100% of student preparation is not going to be happening. A student here, a student there still has trouble completing the pre-class assignment. Things happen, family situation, work, and health, all of that can interfere with students' participation. You need to work with those students as best as you can and still go with the majority. If your class, 85% of the class is participating, you're doing a great job, all right? Don't stop doing it because the rest of the class, like 10%, didn't do it. They may never do it. What can you do, okay? So you keep encouraging though and see, hopefully they do it. Must flip the entire class? No, I told you that you can start slow, gradually add more to your plate, okay? Must provide lecture videos? No, you don't have to prepare lecture videos. You can give them worksheets, practice problems, readings, slides, I don't know, other creative things that you have. You don't have to have lecture videos. This is another myth. Poor student evaluations. Many think that by trying a new method, your students are going to rate less than before. Your student rating may have some consequence with your promotion, tenure, and other things. I don't know how things work there, but here, yeah, poor evaluation, you have to explain why you're getting these poor evaluations. Well, it's okay. Initially, they may not like it, but eventually students do understand. They want to do well. They see your point. You need to be communicating with students all the time. I do it this way because I do it this way because you keep saying it. You put it in the syllabus, you prepare a welcome video, put it in there, and then in the classroom, you say, look, this is a student-centered classroom. Without you asking questions, you don't have anything to do. So they know that they're responsible to drive the activities in the classroom. So communication is the key in getting it going. All right. So now a few other things, research findings. Here is one evidence. There was a study, 376 students completed a questionnaire after flipped classroom, on-site and online, that is in person and online. And what that showed was it was helpful in the development of skills like character building, collaboration, communication, citizenship, critical thinking, and creativity. Yes, so this is not me telling it, another study showing all the qualities that you really want to cultivate in your students and prepare them for the future and for lifelong learner type of situation. And flipped instruction publication. This is straight from the PubMed publication I dug through. What do we see? Flipped classroom methodology, usage of this methodology has jumped nicely. Do you see how nicely it's climbing as of 2020? And I'm going to show you one more now. This is pertaining to medical education only. Again, this I created recently because I wanted to give this talk to medical educators. Okay, what do we see? Same thing. There may be a little bit hit or miss in one year or another. But again, if you were to draw a line, what do you see? Nice growth, nice growth. All right, so that's what we're seeing. Okay. What does it tell us? There is buy-in for this methodology. People have seen the benefits of this type of student-centered learning, active learning methodology. So expansion of flipped teaching, I'm going to give you some more details that would make you believe that it is really, really bought by not just one or two educators, but everywhere. The global flipped classroom market reached a value of 1.35 billion in 2020. Strong growth expected during the next 5 years because of digitization. Everybody is now using technology, right? Growing popularity of personalized learning among the masses. Educational institutions deploying flipped learning programs. Okay, many institutions are attracted to this. Many institutions have fully transformed to flipped learning institutions. Okay, I have many examples. There is an article that's coming out soon about the future of flipped teaching. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of my journey. My journey started in 2013. We don't have much time, so I'm going to go fast. Fall 2013, I was teaching pharmacy students a large class immunology course. Everything was clearly communicated, saying you need to come prepared. We'll have these activities. First class, they did not. Second class, it did not come prepared. And then all of a sudden, I received this email from the IT department saying, what did you do to your students? Their viewing has broken all records in the college, is what he said. That told me that it was working. Yes, look at the peak here that says that they were watching my videos like crazy. And now the same group was used, and another year later, and then we did some, formal testing. So this is UF unflipped versus flipped classroom. Okay, so you can see how it benefits. Unflipped below average, below 50th percentile versus unflipped above 50th percentile. All right. So they are low when you flip the class, especially above 50th, it tops. Okay, below 50th also goes up compared to this yellow bar here. So that shows that flipped classroom worked. Faculty development that I gave in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, that's a medical school group. I went there, gave them a 3-day workshop, hands-on approach. They became the students, and I was teaching them how to do flipped classroom. And then their report was all like, how much they loved and how excited they were and all of that. We will have to skip this quickly. And then another grant to train physiology faculty from the American Physiological Society, where a survey data showed I can successfully implement, is what the faculty showed. Students will be less engaged, is where that went down. They would be more engaged, is what you have to get out of this. Students like flipped teaching approach went up. And so what restricted you from implementing flipped teaching is where they said, we didn't know how to do it. So this paper is in the press and should be coming out soon. Flipped teaching in the physiology course for the nurse anesthesia program where I teach. This is too much to read. I'm just going to go to some graphs here. This is during COVID time. Things were done asynchronously, remotely, basically. Synchronous was also remotely using Zoom technology. And then I would like to skip, and basically it talks about two things. How did I adjust? This was asked before in the beginning of the semester, and later they showed their adjustment was much more solid. And then when I said, what about your confidence? The confidence also increased. Very confident and confident, black and white are strong later on in the semester. So students bought in. This paper is already out, and basically it shows that the assessments were well received. Individual assessment, group assessment, really liked a group assessment. Synchronous online exam also was very good. And the content that I gave, they were satisfied right from the get-go, so there was no difference, but they liked it all. And what we see here is traditional flipped teaching with remote flipped teaching, there was no difference. That means you can do flipped teaching remotely as successfully as in person. Course evaluation did not change either. So this is now out. A remote faculty development during COVID. This is for one of the institutions in Riyadh. So that is where 7 is agree, 8 is strongly agreed. Very good scores from the faculty that participated in flipped teaching training. Remote faculty development during COVID, participants receiving remote flipped teaching training were able to design their own flipped courses successfully. They helped improve knowledge, skills, attitudes, intentions, self-efficacy, and confidence. This is in press right now. Okay, so what is going on right now? Flipped teaching can be successfully used in remote format, which we are very happy about. So another COVID or another incidents would not shake us anymore. There is less resistance than before COVID because of the exposure to technology. So that's all I have. And I want to thank you very much for listening to me. Sorry, I haven't given you much time to talk in between, but now we can open the floor.
Thank you very much, Prof. Chaya, for this wonderful presentation. Indeed, it's really thought-provoking, because I think if things are done really in the right way during flipped classroom, it takes a lot of responsibility from head of tutor to student, and make them really student-centered, and things can be easy. So let's take question quickly. Yes, Prof. Mardi.
Dr. Al-Mardi has the hand up.
Yes, yes, Prof. Mardi. You can unmute and can ask.
Yes. Thank you very much, Shazia. I don't have a question. I know what she's talking about. She's working with us as a consultant. I just wanted to say hi, because I joined a little bit late. So I just welcome you, Prof. Chaya. Okay.
Hello.
Anyone, please, you can ask question. Yes, Dr. Siraj.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So my question is about the faculty development. You have mentioned about the faculty development that was happening in multiple places. And also you mentioned about the workshop, which you did 3 days. So how do we check whether the faculties are I mean, the workshops are fruitful just other than the feedback from the students? Is there any mechanism which we can improvise? Say, for example, I do a training and then I wanted to understand my training was good. Other than the faculty feedback, is there any mechanism to make sure that the flipped classrooms are effectively, can be effectively done through the workshops, something like that?
Yes, yes, of course. We have an NSF study that's going on right now. I didn't mention about it because it's not medical education related. It is STEM education related. So what we do is collect surveys from the faculty over 3 years now, and then also students in the classroom, their input, and see, and also their grades. That's going to tell us how they receive this teaching method, right? And I have a sabbatical in India, and that's where I'm going to repeat the same thing that we did with the NSF study. And we also have another expansion grant, NSF grant, that's going to look at minority students and train teachers who are going to teach at the school level, like high school or middle school level. So it is like, we don't want to stop at the higher education. We want to bring it down all the way from the very beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Shaima.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much, Prof. Chaya, for this wonderful webinar. I have a question regarding the assessment of the part that will be given to the student through the flipped classroom. How are we going to incorporate this part in our assessment? For example, when we are going to ask them during the summative exam, are they going to be well prepared? How to judge their readiness to be assessed?
You are assessing them, formative assessment is happening regularly, right? So they are regularly preparing for the major summative type of assessment. So you do give some points, but make sure that the points you assign is not more than at least one exam grade. So the limitation there is important. And then you have to communicate this with students. Regular practice, regular participation in the activities is how they are actually preparing for the major exam. It's not like they're preparing the day before the major exam. It is happening regularly. Every week they're doing so much work, right? Every week it's like a mini course within the course. If you have 16 weeks course, you have 15 mini courses within the course. That's how I call it.
All right. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments, please?
Yeah, this is Manish. Very good evening, and thank you, Professor Gopalan. I'm Manish Tavade, working as associate professor in the Department of Community Medicine and Family Medicine at AIIMS Bhubaneswar, India. So I'm very keen in medical education, and I'm quite interested in working few things, small baby step, you can say. And this Flip Journal Club, I have one question where I can understand how this Flip teaching can be used in the village level. Like what I mean to say, when my students are going in the field in an adopted village, and there is maybe 15 group of students. So how I can use this Flip teaching in that setting?
Yeah, because that's exactly what I plan to do during my sabbatical. It's the rural college in India that I have focused on. That's in Kanakpura, Karnataka state. Basically, my goal is to see if this can be done without using technology. You may want to create a book that you would give to students on the first day of the semester and say chapter 1 for week 1, and you need to master this because this is what we would be working on. And chapter 2, again, you may build practice questions. You may show some sample problems, right? How to solve. The videos, I mean, they may not have computer, they may not have Wi-Fi, right? So you need to make sure that they have other resources that they can count on.
How it will be, madam, different from case-based learning and problem-based learning?
Good. Case-based learning, problem-based learning is very,
flipped teaching
in the problem. You give a patient a situation with hyperthyroidism, and then they have to come back by visiting textbooks or other resources, what hyperthyroidism means, and where this hormone is made, and what happens when there is too much. All of that they have to discover on their own. You probably are guiding. So this is where you start off with the problem. Here you are not starting off with the problem. You are giving them the content. Here is the thyroid. These are the hormones it makes. You know what I mean? So you're not giving the problem, and you're doing the problem in the class with them. Do you see that? So it's the opposite of problem-based or case-based.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question I have, whether this flipped teaching can be used for postgraduate students, especially in journal club.
Yes, I forgot to mention, or I didn't have time to mention, because I teach both undergraduate and graduate students. My main focus for teaching is nurse anesthesia students. They're almost like medical students. Okay. So I have absolutely no problem there. They are very focused in learning. They want to do well. So whether I give formative assessment or not, they're going to come prepared. But I just give it to them because they like to practice these problems anyways, right? So by answering these questions, they're practicing all the time. So graduate students receive flipped teaching extremely well. In fact, they made my whole department switch to flipped teaching by demanding the flipped teaching methodology among other teachers. So undergraduate students is where it's not completely sold yet. They are still not used to the new methodology, and then they resist a little bit, and that's where I'm still working. That's where the 85%, 90% numbers come from. So that's, and also in the NSF study we are doing, what we have noticed is a ladder-like effect. A freshman don't do as well as sophomore. Sophomore is the second-year students. Freshmen are the first-year students. First-year students don't like flipped teaching as much as second-year students. Second-year students don't like flipped teaching as third-year students. And third-year students don't like as much as fourth-year students, meaning fourth-year students, the mature students, understand the value of flipped teaching more than the first-year students, is what we have discovered.
Yeah, this is very interesting finding.
Thank you very much. I can see that there are a few questions in chat box as well. A lot of thanks for this wonderful presentation. However, related to flipped classroom, the main challenge is preparation of students. So a few questions are related to that how to prepare students' mindset, or how to encourage them to get involved or engage with flipped classroom, because in traditional teaching or usually undergrad, they expect spoon feeding, and they just want that lecture is just didactic lecture. Teacher should come and teach us. So how to encourage them to get engaged with flipped classroom, just by your experience, please?
My experience, they want to be spoon fed. That's it. And then you need to communicate. Communication is always the key to success, no matter where you go, what example you take, right? We have to have a good understanding. And that's where from day one, even before day one, in the syllabus, you have clearly mentioned it. I have the video that I shared with you, the first video, the 3-minute video. I posted what is flipped teaching. I show some data in my welcome video, and prepare them mentally. And then keep saying it. This is for this reason, you just have to encourage them. And some are shy and they may not want to ask questions, and they may not make time to come prepared, and they see that other students are prepared. By working with other students, they realize that other students are preparing, I am not preparing. Why am I not preparing if other students are prepared? So that kind of a positive spin is what you have to create. And in the small group, they don't like to be doing poorly, because other students notice that they're not doing well and they don't like it. They want to be prepared. So that's another motivation.
Thank you so much, Prof. Chaya, for a wonderful presentation. I would say that we don't have more questions or any hand raised. So, and time is also approaching. So thank you very much for your I appreciate for your precious time and efforts. And this is right time to start applying this flipped classroom, especially motivating our students. And in undergrad education, yes, we have to apply it. So this presentation will really help and guide you to follow these principles and try to cope with these challenges and experience it at least at your institution, so that we can conclude and can say that, yes, this is effective. So I would say thank you then, and have good night to all of you. Recording of this session will be shared with you through email.
If you don't mind copying the chat messages, I can see what questions they asked. That would also be helpful. I can save it. I don't know. Let me see.
I can't see any option right now to download all chat.
Let me see.
If you can.
Okay, save chat is what I said.
No, it is download, Shazia.
Yes.
You can download it later from the site.
All right. Yes.
Yeah. Just send me the link. I will.
Sure. My teacher is with me.
Again, thank you, Chaya, very, very much.
You're welcome. Thank you all for listening to me and asking these amazing questions. Thank you for this opportunity. Yeah,
bye-bye.
Good,
good night.
Bye-bye.